Well, I know I said I'd finished on the 79, but turns out I haven't, and I needed to add a transmission cooler after doing Googs track. So, well, I found out about the need for a transmission cooler after Googs track. On Googs, in the middle section, it's steepish sandhills, and there's quite long flat sections in between to the next sandhill. So it's not just up and down continuously, it's sandhill, then a flat part, then another sandhill. If I did the sandhills in low range, that was great for the temperatures of the transmission, so I was getting up to about 95, even up the hills, and then of course going down, and then on the flat sections it was cooling it back off again. But in low range it won't go higher than 4th gear. So even though there's 2 more gears left in the auto box, once you're in low range you only get 1st to 4th. And that limits you to a top speed of about 40-45 k's. And so if I got the cooler gearbox temperatures in low range for going up the sandhills, then I had to endure doing a few hundred metres with a maximum speed of only 40, which is very tedious. So a toss up between trans temperatures and speed on the flat section. So I decided I needed a transmission cooler, because for one section, when I was in high for the flat, getting the speed on the flat, so in high range coming up the sandhills, I was regularly getting over 120. The spike I saw was 127 on the temperature gauge, which is pretty hot for a transmission oil, not good for longevity. So I just decided, well, I'll just put in a transmission cooler. The kit I installed has got a cooler that's made by Davies Craig, and it came from a company called Direction Plus. That's the box. No affiliation, no sponsorship, just bought it off the internet. It's about $600. I was pretty happy with the quality of all the components. The hose is made in Australia and had stainless steel quality clips. The aluminium brackets that pre-cut fitted in beautifully. They fitted everything to the millimetre, no problems at all. So I was very impressed with the kit. All the bolts are stainless steel, and the only thing that doesn't come in the kit is you need a bit of extra fluid to put into your auto trans once you've fitted it, because the space of the cooler and the hoses, in my case, was about 700 ml extra auto trans fluid. And I just went to Toyota and got some OEM, it's called WS transmission fluid. That's the original equipment specification from Toyota. So from the factory, the car does come with a transmission cooler. It's built into the radiator, so the top part of the radiator is for the coolant from the engine block, and then on the bottom of the radiator there's an extra set of fins that's for the transmission fluid. So what we're doing is we're not bypassing the original cooler, we're adding to it, so that in fact this car now has got 2 transmission coolers, the original factory one plus the Davies Craig cooler. So now the 2 coolers are in series, and that will give me much more cooling on the trans fluid. Fitting it took longer than I thought. It's a bit fiddly getting the grill off for 79 when you've got a bull bar on. There's not much room to play. You've got to bring the grill forward, and with the bull bar there's almost no room to do that. I discovered that the plugs on the front of the bodywork, that I thought they had to come out, like through the holes, but actually the grill clips away from them. So I guess if I did it again, I'd know. So once you get the sides of the grill loose, just use one of these, a little trim tool, and once that comes loose, the grill will just pull up off the 4 clips in the centre. Routing the hoses took a bit of trial and error. The diagram in the manual says to put both hoses pointing down, but there was something underneath. There's a big OEM fitting underneath where the downward pointing one was, so I ended up having that one pointing up, and they sort of crossed over as they went through. I don't think it makes any difference. Getting the old hoses off was actually a real job. I got a special tool. It's a hook on a handle, and you can get it in behind the hose and the metal pipe, and it gives you a bit of leverage to pull it off. But it was a bit of a bugger to get off. I guess it's got hot, cold, and it's just sort of, it seemed to have the rubber melded onto the metal, even though I'd taken the clips off. Yeah, normally they come off pretty easily. But once the little OEM rubber connector was off, it was easy to put on the 2 new pipes, and that was all done. Then the last thing was just to top up the transmission oil. There's a formula in the installation instructions on how much oil is per metre of piping. So I think it's 70 mils of oil for every metre of piping, and the unit itself takes half a litre. So I just did some maths. When I pulled the hoses off, there turned out to be maybe 50 mil of oil dropped out into a little pan. So I just added that back in. But when I did the maths on how much I needed, it came out to something like 663 mil. But because the plunger that I use, something gets left behind, I just put in 700 mil as a top up. So 40 extra mil, if it's overfilled by 40 mil, I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. I put the filler lid back on, it's a 24 mil nut by the way, and just hand tightened it. It doesn't have to be a death grip, and job's done. So I took it for a couple of runs just to get it hot, to make sure there weren't any leaks. I tested it in the shed to make sure there's no leaks, but then I wanted to test it when it was hot, so I took it for a couple of runs without the radiator on, so I can still get my hand in and check for leaks. All good. You can see it's been driving around like this for the last couple of days without the grill on, and I'll just put that, I'll finalise that later on today, and it'll all be done. I've just taken the car out for a bit of a spin and given it an up and down some reasonably steep hills, counting it a little bit, and I've come back with automatic transmission fluids. Oh, it just went up to 74. It was on 73 for quite some time. Before, I reckon that would have been up in the 80s, like maybe I've dropped off 10 or 12 degrees from what it used to be before. So it seems to be working quite nicely. That's it. If you don't do any SAM work, I don't think you need a cooler. We went all through Amberdell and through Connie Sue highways through Central Australia, which is a little bit like a light version of the Simpson, I guess. And it didn't overheat, it didn't even come close to overheating. The worst I saw, I think, was like 98 degrees on that trip. But yeah, Googs track with the soft sand and having to be in high range to get some speed up, but then needing the low range to go up the hills. Yeah, it just overheated. Well, not overheated, it just got really hot, and I thought it was worth putting a cooler on because that's the sort of stuff we do a fair bit, and it's worthwhile. So potentially that is the final thing to do, and I hope that gives you a bit more information if you're trying to decide whether you want to put a transmission cooler on your 79. See you next time.